Tara was standing by the office coffee machine, stirring oat milk into her morning blend, when Derek, the new CEO, stepped into the break room. He didn't say hello. He didn't smile. He just looked at her like she was another piece of old furniture he couldn't wait to toss out. "Tara, my office." "Now," he said. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even a command. It was a decision already made. Tara had been with the company for almost 11 years. She built the client services department from the ground up, negotiated over 100 contracts, and trained most of the team sitting just outside Derek's sleek glass office. But none of that mattered. Not to Derek. His father, Mr. Branson, had built this company from grit and loyalty. Derek had inherited the title and assumed that gave him the right to play king. She followed him in silence, heart pounding. Derek didn't sit when they reached his office. "You're fired," he said, cold and flat. "We don't need lazy people dragging us down." Tara blinked. At first, she thought he was joking. "Excuse me," she asked. "You heard me," Derek said, flipping through some papers like he was browsing a menu. "You can pack up and leave. Effective immediately." Tara stared at him. Her heart was pounding in her ears. She wanted to shout to demand an explanation, but instead, she smiled, a calm, deliberate smile. "Understood," she said softly. "Have a nice day, Derek." She walked out of his office with her head high, but her insides were trembling. The people she had trained watched her pass. Some stood to speak. She gave them a small shake of her head. "Not now. Don't make this harder." Tara packed her desk in silence. No tears, no outburst, just quiet hands folding away a decade of dedication into a single cardboard box. Pens she'd bought with her own money. Notebooks filled with client notes and strategy sketches. A photo of her and the team at the Silver Bay retreat. All of it into the box. By the time she reached the parking lot, her hands were trembling. She sat in her car for a long time, engine off, staring at the dashboard. 11 years. She had given more time to that company than she had to her own family. Missed birthdays. Skipped holidays. She'd even taken conference calls through her divorce. Tears silent while her voice stayed steady. And now, she was discarded like she meant nothing. But the funny thing was she wasn't angry. Not yet. She was curious. Why? That single word echoed through her mind all night. Why? Something about the way Derek had fired her, it felt off. Too sudden. Too careless. And the timing couldn't have been worse. They were days away from finalizing a contract with Silver Bay Group, one of the biggest deals in the company's history. A deal Tara had led from the first cold call to the final terms. She'd even scheduled the last meeting for Friday. And now, just like that, she was gone. Had Derek even looked at the contract? The next morning, just after 9 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. Tara hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. She wasn't sure she could take another blow, but curiosity won again. She answered. "Tara, it's Mr. Branson." His voice hit her like a jolt. "I just got into the office," he said, his voice tight with tension. "Why the hell did you pack up and leave? What happened?" Tara sat up straight, gripping the phone tighter. "Your son fired me," she said quietly. There was silence on the other end. Then a sharp inhale. "Yesterday." She nodded, then remembered he couldn't see her. "Yes." He said I was lazy. Said I wasn't needed anymore. A long pause followed, filled only with the soft hum of the line. When Mr. Branson spoke again, his voice was lower, more controlled. "Did he read your contract?" Tara's brows drew together. "What do you mean?" "He's supposed to finalize the Silver Bay deal today, isn't he?" "Yes." The final review was scheduled for 11 a.m. She heard papers rustling, loud, frantic, then a thud, like something heavy hitting a desk. "Tara, there's a clause in your contract," Mr. Branson said, voice rising with urgency. "One I personally added after the Steel Point incident 2 years ago. You're not just managing the Silver Bay deal, you're the only authorized negotiator." Tara froze. He can't close the deal without you, Mr. Branson continued. Not legally, not ethically, not practically. The contract becomes void if anyone else represents us at the final signing. A slow-burning realization crept into Tara's chest. Derek had no idea what he'd done. He hadn't read the contract. He had fired the one person holding the entire deal together. Mr. Branson didn't say another word. He hung up. Tara sat motionless in her apartment, coffee cooling beside her. Her thoughts raced. 11 years, gone in one careless moment. Not just careless, reckless. Derek had made a power move without understanding the consequences. She leaned back and let out a quiet, bitter laugh. After everything, this was how it went down. Not with a ceremony or even a thank you, but with arrogance. And now, the fallout was coming, and she wouldn't lift a finger to stop it. At exactly 10:13 a.m., Tara's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She stared at it for a second, then let it go to voicemail. Less than a minute later, another call. This time from the office receptionist, then one from legal, then accounting. Her phone lit up like a warning signal, buzzing and vibrating nonstop across the table. She didn't answer. The voicemail icon blinked relentlessly. Finally, she tapped it open. Tara, it's Derek. His voice was strained, the polished confidence from yesterday gone. Listen, there was a misunderstanding. I may have acted too quickly. We need you back today. It's urgent. Please call me. Urgent. The word rolled around in her mind like a marble in a glass. He hadn't apologized. Not even a fake corporate apology. Just panic, wrapped in forced politeness. She picked up her cup and took a sip of the now cold coffee. Still, she didn't move from the couch. At 10:32 a.m., another call. This time, a number she hadn't saved in years. It was Jasmine. They'd grown close when Jasmine was in client services, before she transferred to marketing. Tara hesitated, then picked up. Tara, you will not believe what's happening here, Jasmine whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Try me. Derek just got roasted, like properly chewed out, in front of everyone. Tara raised an eyebrow. By who? Mr. Branson. He stormed into the meeting room, slammed the Silver Bay contract on the table, and asked one question. Did you even read this before firing Tara? And Derek tried to bluff, Jasmine said. Started mumbling something about restructuring and moving in a new direction. Mr. Branson wasn't buying it. He flipped to that clause, you know, the one that says you're the sole negotiator. Tara exhaled slowly, and he looked pale, ghost pale. Tara, he just realized he might have killed the deal himself. Tara leaned forward, her fingers wrapped tight around her coffee cup. What did Mr. Branson say next? Jasmine lowered her voice. He told Derek, if this deal falls through, your position here becomes negotiable. There was a pause. Tara didn't say anything for a moment. She just stared at the wall, letting the words settle. That was the first crack in Derek's shiny new armor. I don't know what you're planning, Jasmine continued, but whatever it is, Tara, you hold all the cards now. Thanks, Jazz, Tara murmured. I needed that. They ended the call quietly. Tara stood, walked to her window, and looked out at the still skyline. The city was calm, indifferent to the storm churning inside her company. She found comfort in that. The world kept turning, no matter how chaotic people became. At 11:15 a.m., another message came through. This time it was from Mr. Branson himself. Tara, I'm sincerely sorry for what happened. I misjudged the situation. Please come in, not just for the deal, but so we can speak privately. Tara read the message 3 times. It was tempting, but something inside her had changed. She wasn't just a hurt employee anymore. She was someone who knew her value. This wasn't about revenge, it was about respect. She picked up her phone and typed her reply carefully. I'll consider returning to finalize the Silver Bay deal, but only under specific conditions. I'd like to speak with you directly beforehand. Then she hit send, stood up, and changed out of her pajamas. She dressed with care, calm, deliberate. By the time she arrived at the office, it was a little past noon. She didn't use the employee entrance. She walked straight through the main lobby, and the building noticed. Heads turned the moment Tara stepped into the lobby. Conversations paused. Even the receptionist stood up abruptly, eyes wide. "Miss Graham," she stammered, using Tara's last name like she was royalty. "Mr. Branson is expecting you. Right this way." Tara followed, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. Every step echoed with quiet power. She noticed the way people looked at her now, curious, cautious, maybe even impressed. She wasn't just an employee anymore. She was the woman who'd been fired and returned. Mr. Branson stood by his office door when she arrived. He wasn't smiling. "Tara," he said, giving a respectful nod. "Thank you for coming." She returned the nod, but didn't extend her hand. He stepped aside and let her walk in. His office was just as she remembered, elegant, quiet, imposing. She sat down across from the massive oak desk. Mr. Branson closed the door and leaned against it, letting out a long breath before he spoke. "I made a mistake," he began, his voice low. "A big one. I gave my son too much authority, too quickly. I thought he needed a chance to prove himself. I didn't think he'd burn bridges before learning to build them." Tara didn't respond. She waited. He moved to his chair and sat down slowly. "What he did to you, firing you like that, was unacceptable, disrespectful, and it nearly cost us the Silver Bay deal." Tara nodded once. "Yes, it did." "I reread your contract this morning," he said. "Every line. You were given full autonomy over Silver Bay. That clause was included after the Steel Point fallout. I remember." "So do I," Tara said. Her voice was quiet but firm. I was the one who saved it." He met her eyes. "You didn't deserve what happened yesterday, and I'd like to offer you your job back, with full authority to finish the deal. Whatever terms you need, we'll meet them." Tara looked at him carefully. His tone was sincere. Regret hung in the air, but she wasn't here for apologies alone. "I'll return," she said, steady and calm. "But I want everything in writing. A revised contract. Full autonomy over Silver Bay. No interference from Derek." Mr. Branson nodded without hesitation. "Done." "And one more thing," she added, sitting straighter. "This can't happen again. Not to me, not to anyone else." There was a long pause. Then Mr. Branson gave a slow, thoughtful nod. "You have my word." Tara stood. So did he. As she turned to leave, the office felt heavier, like something important had shifted. As soon as she stepped into the hallway, she saw Derek. He stood near the end of the corridor, arms folded, pretending to be deep in conversation with a junior executive. But the moment he spotted her, his eyes locked on hers. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She walked right past him, her gaze steady, her expression unreadable. For a split second, she saw it, that flicker of realization in Derek's eyes. The moment he understood he was no longer in control. At 1 p.m., the boardroom was prepared. The Silver Bay team had arrived. Tara reviewed the final documents once more, including the translated Arabic version of the agreement. She made sure every clause, every figure, every detail was perfect. Outside the glass walls of the boardroom, she spotted Derek pacing, like a caged animal. Mr. Branson intercepted him, stepping into the hallway. Their voices were muffled, but the tension was visible. Mr. Branson's hand rose sharply, silencing his son. Derek's face flushed. He glanced at Tara with a mix of rage and embarrassment before turning and walking away. That was the last time she saw him that day. At exactly 1:30 p.m., Mr. Rashid, the CEO of Silver Bay Group, entered the boardroom with 2 of his senior aides. Tara stood to greet them, offering a small, respectful bow. "As-salamu alaikum, Mr. Rashid," she said warmly. His eyes lit up. A rare smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. "You remembered," he said in Arabic. "Respect goes a long way, Ms. Graham." They shook hands, and with that the meeting began. For the next 2 hours, Tara led the negotiations with clarity and precision. Every question, every revision, every suggestion, she handled it with the kind of grace only years of experience could produce. The Silver Bay team was clearly impressed. Even Mr. Rashid, known for his icy demeanor, leaned back in his chair toward the end, visibly relaxed. At 3:45 p.m., they signed the deal. It was done. When the Silver Bay team left the building, Mr. Branson walked into the boardroom, a rare look of relief on his face. "You saved us," he said, "and I owe you far more than an apology." Tara stood, gathering her documents. "You owe your company a leader," she replied, meeting his eyes. "One who knows the difference between power and responsibility." Mr. Branson didn't argue. Later that evening, as she walked to her car in the quiet lot, Tara felt something lift from her chest. The weight she'd been carrying since the moment Derek fired her had begun to ease. She had returned, not as someone begging for her job back, but as someone who knew her worth. Someone who had stared betrayal in the face and kept her head high. But deep down, Tara knew this wasn't the end. Derek might have been quiet today, but men like him didn't just disappear. They retreated. Then they retaliated. The following week, the Silver Bay deal made headlines in the industry press. "Breakthrough in cross-border negotiation," one article read. "Branson and Co. secures landmark agreement with Silver Bay through multilingual strategy and executive precision." They didn't mention Tara by name, but everyone in the company knew who had led the deal. Her inbox overflowed with quiet messages. "Congratulations. Well done. You held it together." Some were from junior staff she had mentored years ago. Others came from department heads who once talked over her in meetings. Now they praised her leadership, her resilience, her grace under pressure. She appreciated the messages, but she wasn't naive. In the corporate world, people often shift with the wind. Praise today, silence tomorrow. Still, the mood in the office had changed. Laughter returned to the break room. People made eye contact again. The tension that once clung to every hallway had started to ease. Mr. Branson made a quiet but powerful move. Derek was removed from high-level decision-making until further notice. No announcement, just a silent shift. A door that closed without warning. But Tara noticed something else, small, unsettling things. Her travel reimbursement for the Silver Bay meeting was delayed. She submitted it twice. Still nothing. Documents she had sent for sign-off came back and signed, no explanation. Then one morning the IT department flagged an email sent from her address. It had incorrect figures and was forwarded to one of Silver Bay's regional managers. Thankfully, the manager contacted Tara directly to confirm. He trusted her, but it was enough to plant doubt. Tara reported the incident. IT investigated. No sign of external hacking. The message was sent from inside the office, and that's when she knew Derek was behind it. He wasn't trying to fire her anymore. He was trying to discredit her, slowly, quietly. A smear campaign masked as technical errors. It had begun. Tara recognized the pattern. She had seen it before, years ago, at her first job straight out of university. A director there used similar tactics, never direct, always hidden. Isolate the target. Cut off their support. Let mistakes appear where none existed. One by one, the brightest employees left, their reputations bruised, their confidence shaken. But Tara wasn't that 22-year-old anymore. This time she was ready. She started documenting everything, missed emails, files lost in the system, unexplained delays. She kept a private notebook in her drawer and a backup digital log at home. Time, date, name, details. She even noted odd hallway encounters and sudden silences when she entered rooms. She didn't let it affect her work. Outwardly, she was the same, Sharp, calm, efficient. But inside she was building armor. Then, one afternoon, the mask slipped. Tara was walking past a conference room when she heard voices through the half-open door. "She's unstable," Derek was saying, his voice louder than it should have been. "Ever since she came back, she's been erratic. Aggressive." Tara stopped. "I just think we need to start considering a replacement," he continued. "Succession planning, maybe. She's overextended." Another voice answered, someone younger, hesitant. "But she pulled off the Silver Bay deal under massive pressure." Derek scoffed. "She got lucky. That's not a strategy." Tara stood there for a moment, frozen. Not from fear, but from the icy clarity of it all. Derek wasn't done. He was planting seeds of doubt again, trying to poison her image. That night she stayed late. The office was dim, empty. She sat alone in the glass-walled meeting room, staring out at the city lights, wondering how many more battles she would have to fight just to do the job she'd already proven herself worthy of. And then a voice broke the silence. "Still here?" She turned. It was Mr. Branson. Tara looked up, surprised but composed. "I could ask you the same," she said, her tone even. Mr. Branson stepped into the room, a folder in his hand. "I thought you should have this," he said, placing it gently on the table in front of her. She opened it slowly. It was her revised contract, everything they had discussed. Autonomy over Silver Bay, legal protections, reinstated seniority. Her signature was the only one missing. She looked up at him. "I've also launched an internal audit," he added, his voice low but firm. "Too many files have gone missing. Too many unexplained mistakes." Tara's posture straightened. "You suspect Derek?" Mr. Branson nodded once. "I'm not blind, Tara. I've seen the patterns. I just needed confirmation. And I'm starting to get it." "Then why haven't you stopped him?" she asked. Her voice was calm, but there was fire beneath the words. There was a long pause before he replied. He looked tired, less like a CEO and more like a father carrying disappointment. "Because I needed to see how far he'd go," he said quietly. "I wanted to believe he'd learn, that he'd lead, but maybe it's too late." Tara closed the folder gently. "I don't need protection," she said. "I need clarity, and you need to decide what kind of legacy you want to leave behind." Their eyes met across the table. His gaze lingered a few seconds, longer than usual. Then he nodded and turned to leave. As he walked out of the room, Tara remained seated, her fingers resting on the closed contract. Something bigger was coming. The question was no longer if, it was when. And this time, she wouldn't be caught off guard. The atmosphere in the office shifted again the following week. Not loudly, not suddenly, but in subtle, unmistakable ways. Conversations lowered to whispers when Tara passed. Smiles became tighter. Some colleagues avoided her gaze altogether. Others offered brief, almost guilty glances of support. The audit had begun. She hadn't asked Mr. Branson to start it, but she was relieved that he had. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the culture that had allowed Derek to operate unchecked for so long. People were nervous. So was she. But she kept working, kept showing up, kept her chin lifted. Tara blinked. "I didn't ask for a promotion." He smiled faintly. "That's why you deserve one." Tara opened the folder slowly. The title stared back at her. Director of Client Strategy. It wasn't just a role. It was a seat at the table. A voice in the decisions that shaped the company's future. She looked up. "If I accept this, I want to do more than hold a title. I want to say in how we move forward from the inside out." Mr. Branson didn't hesitate. "That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say." The promotion was official by the end of the week. Tara didn't make an announcement. She didn't post it online or give a speech. She simply moved into the temporary office they'd assigned her while renovations were underway. She sat in the quiet space that first evening, staring at the blank nameplate on the door. For years, she had walked these same halls, wondering if anyone really saw the work she did. The extra hours, the client crises she solved without anyone knowing, the times she bit her tongue in meetings to keep the peace. She had once thought staying quiet was strength, that not rocking the boat was loyalty, but silence had almost cost her everything. This new role wasn't just a reward, it was a responsibility. In the following days, Tara began reshaping her department. She reopened communication lines that had been closed, brought back team members who had been quietly pushed out. She launched an anonymous reporting system, so no one else had to fear retaliation for speaking up. Younger employees started coming to her quietly, asking how she stayed strong. She told them the truth. "You don't always get to choose the battles," she said, "but you do get to choose who you become while fighting them." Tara's words began to ripple across the office. Little by little, trust started returning. People spoke more freely during meetings. Some shared things they had kept to themselves for months. About decisions that didn't make sense, tasks that had vanished, promotions they were quietly passed over for. Tara didn't fix everything in a day, but she listened. She followed through. She created a space where competence no longer had to scream to be heard. As for Derek, rumors floated in from time to time. He was interviewing at smaller firms out of state. Some said Mr. Branson had pulled a few strings behind the scenes, not to protect him, but to make sure the company's name didn't drag through public scandal. Tara didn't ask. She didn't need to. That chapter was closed. One afternoon, as she was walking down the main hallway, she passed the boardroom where the Silver Bay meeting had taken place. She paused just outside the glass wall. It was empty now, but she could still see it clearly. The long table, the papers, the eyes of Mr. Rashid watching her as she led the deal without breaking under pressure. That single meeting had changed the course of her career. But the real shift had happened days before, when she stood in Derek's office, smiled, and walked out without begging. That moment hadn't been defeat. It had been clarity. Tara understood now. Knowing your worth wasn't arrogance, and demanding respect wasn't unprofessional. She had been underestimated, disrespected, and sabotaged, but she hadn't allowed herself to be destroyed, and she hadn't let bitterness become her story. That, more than any contract, promotion, or boardroom victory, was the real triumph. In the weeks that followed, Tara's leadership began to reshape the company in quiet, powerful ways. She didn't rush into change with grand speeches. She made time to understand people, time to rebuild the trust that had been eroded by fear and favoritism. She restructured onboarding processes, rewrote team expectations, and pushed for a mentorship program. Juniors were paired with experienced staff, not just to learn the job, but to learn how to navigate the politics of survival without losing themselves in the process. The office started to feel different. There were still tough days, still challenges, but something had shifted. One morning, Jasmine stopped by her office with coffee in hand. "You know," she said, handing over the cup, "I used to dream about leaving this place. Now I'm kind of excited to stay." Tara smiled. "That's the point, isn't it? To build something worth staying for." Jasmine nodded, then looked at her friend with a curious expression. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd walked away that day and never looked back?" Tara considered it. "All the time." "And do you regret coming back?" Tara looked toward the window, watching the skyline flicker in morning light. "No," she said, "because I didn't just come back. I came back different, and that made all the difference." That evening, Tara sat at her desk long after most had gone home. The office was quiet, peaceful, a far cry from the storm it had been just a month before. She opened her notebook, once filled with evidence and dates and strategy. Now, she flipped to a clean page. At the top she wrote, "What a healthy workplace should feel like." Then she began her next mission, not to survive the system, but to redesign it. The final piece came quietly. No dramatic showdown. No viral headline. just a company learning to breathe again. Tara's name was never printed in the press release about Branson & Co.'s renewed direction or leadership realignment. But within those glass walls, everyone knew. From the receptionist who once saw her walk out trembling, to the senior managers who now asked for her input before making major moves, Tara's impact was undeniable. Mr. Branson called her into his office one last time before taking a leave of absence. He needed time, he said, to reflect, to rebuild privately, to decide what kind of legacy he wanted to leave not just as a founder, but as a father. "I trust this place in your hands," he told her. "You've earned that and more." Tara thanked him, not with a smile or handshake, but with a simple nod. She didn't need applause. She didn't want fanfare. What she wanted, what she had always wanted, was a workplace where effort wasn't invisible, where respect was a baseline, not a reward, where people didn't have to trade their dignity for a paycheck. And that's what she was building now. Months later, she stood in a staff meeting, facing a new team of interns. Some were nervous, others eager, all of them hopeful. She looked at their faces and remembered herself at the beginning. Overworking, undervalued, wondering if anyone would ever really see her. So she told them something simple. "You will face people who try to shrink you," she said. "But remember, how you respond is what shapes you. Never let anyone mistake your silence for weakness or your professionalism for passivity. Know your worth. And if you ever forget it, find someone who will remind you." Tara Graham became that reminder for them and for herself. And this time, she didn't have to fight to be seen. She had already built a seat at the table, and the table now was hers.